It used to be thought that television was the one thing that we could all agree with and unite on, but according to the New York Times, no, we are very divided politically, culturally, and televisionally. So they have released different heat maps, per se, showing different preferences of television shows across the country. This is garnered through Facebook likes. So that, you can find an issue with the data right there, but I think it's fascinating to look at the very least. You may realize that shows like Modern Family and The Daily Show perform differently than Duck Dynasty and a show called Fast and Loud that I've never heard of before, but it's pretty popular.
I learned about a lot of new shows from this.
There's 50 different shows being cataloged on the New York Times site, and it is a fascinating click through. And what you will notice is that while there are differences, say, in the West, the South, the Northeast, the Northwest, a lot of the times there's outliers. For instance, sometimes we'll see Nashville, Tennessee just light up as being very popular for a specific show that's unpopular outside of the city radius. It's a fascinating read. We are going to look at a little bit of data, but you are free to go look at that yourself in full later. So here we have shows most common in urban areas, including Once Upon a Time, Mythbusters, Tosh.0, South Park, Family Guy. Interestingly enough, I found that Family Guy lined up with Hillary Clinton voters.
It had the highest correlation. Yep.
Not what I expected. Game of Thrones is extremely unpopular in the Mid-South, I learned. And in my head, I did not realize that, but it was fascinating to check out. Also, The Simpsons, The Daily Show, Adventure Time, American Horror Story. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which I like a lot, despite that was unsurprisingly very popular in Philadelphia, as South Park is very popular in Colorado. But things change when we go to rural areas. Look how different that looks. And we see shows, interesting enough, the other Seth MacFarlane show, American Dad, 16 and Pregnant, Cake Boss, Fast and Loud, Duck Dynasty, Wipeout, The Walking Dead, The Voice, Teen Mom, Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory, Ridiculousness, Pawn Stars, NCIS. There is some data to show that Trump's team did actually target NCIS viewers for specific issues, and then targeted Walking Dead viewers for immigration issues, or people who had, were strongly opposed to certain immigration laws.
They did build a wall in The Walking Dead. They build walls all the time. They're very effective there. I never thought about that before.
And here we have, oh God, I guess you could view it as an allegory that way. We're going to come back and talk about this.
Okay, good.
But here we have the extended black belt. And by their definition, it is a swath that extends from the Mississippi River along the eastern seaboard up to Washington, but also including city centers and other places with large non-white populations. What do you mean by large non-white? Do you mean black? Are Asians, are Latinos included in this? What do you mean by that, New York Times? I want you to tell me, because we're not all the same.
From a brief glance, it looks like it's African American and
Park,
Latino.
Empire, Real Housewives of Atlanta, Scandal, SpongeBob, Tom and Jerry, which is a very old show, unless it came back and I didn't know about it. Okay, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Law and Order, SVU, The First 48.
I'm not gonna lie, it looks like they just picked the shows they thought were about black people. And then
do you think Tom and Jerry and SpongeBob are about black people?
No. I mean, Reddit and Twitter would have you believe differently with their fascination of SpongeBob SquarePants.
I think everyone likes SpongeBob.
Everyone loves SpongeBob. Okay. But you're right. That's the strangest map of the three. But there were some interesting insights here. Where do you want to start?
Well, why don't you start?
First of all, there weren't very many real surprises. I live in an urban area. I've seen and enjoyed most of the shows on the urban list. I had no idea of most of the shows on the rural list.
I knew that they existed. I just had never heard of Fast and Loud before.
Yeah.
But I've heard of Pawn Stars. I've heard of Duck Dynasty.
Lots of reality television shows on the rural one. Lots of man-centric shows about fixing cars and skateboarding and pranking people and that sort of thing.
Pranking people? Oh, like Rob Dyrdek?
Yeah, a little bit.
I thought he was he was more popular than I thought he was.
And he's got 2 shows on that list.
I kind of like Fantasy Factory. I don't like Ridiculousness, though.
I didn't realize how big a deal, like, hilarious video compilation
America's
shows
Funniest
were.
Home Videos.
Still is like the
hot.
most universally between
That
rural
is
and urban areas.
like the 80s and 90s version of YouTube in my head.
And then I guess I didn't realize that like Tosh.0 was like the urban version of that. It took this map to make me
Kinda.
realize that.
With a snarky narrative
Yeah.
placed on top, and then some other original sketches. You know, it's not just funny videos that they have been sourced. But yeah, it's interesting to look at, and it does. I think what you can come with overall is the country is not really divided or not really united on one particular show. Even it's very much. You can correlate certain shows with different voting patterns and candidate preference even. Like I said earlier about weirdly Family Guy and Hillary Clinton.
Yep. There's two weird standouts that don't fit in the rural versus urban map, and those are Law & Order SVU, which is almost exclusively an East Coast show,
Yeah, I don't watch it.
and Adventure Time, which is almost exclusively a West Coast show.
Yeah, I watch it.
Very strange. Very strange delineations that don't like people in rural areas and urban areas, regardless, like that show, as long as you're on the correct coast. And then like the most popular area for The Voice is in North Dakota, and the most popular area for Once Upon a Time is in Utah. And I guess that's a Mormon-friendly show?
Maybe.
That's what this
I
article
don't know enough
seemed to
about
think.
Once Upon a Time or Mormonism to tell you the correlation there.
And urban areas like So You Think You Can Dance, but rural areas prefer Dancing with the Stars. They each have their own dancing show.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I mean, maybe you could say rural areas like Celebrities, and I think that's mostly unknowns on So You Think You Can Dance, right? It's hard to draw conclusions out, and a lot of this is generalization in terms of what people like. And of course, you know, it's generalization. You can't be like, well, I'm from Alabama and I love The Daily Show. Yes, sure. There's outliers everywhere. Nothing is super black and white, but these are trends, and these are it is fascinating, if not flawed, data to look at. So I wholly recommend going through it and seeing where your favorite shows line up and wondering whether or not they match your political ideology. If you have seen a match, please let us know about that below in the comments, and please like and subscribe for more.